Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm Allie Stiefel, the director of the Regeneron Science Talent Search. I'm joined by my colleague tonight, Elaine Edwards. Elaine, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elaine Edwards, and I am the Senior Specialist for the Regeneron Science Talent Search. It is such a pleasure to welcome you all to our last webinar of the 2024 Regeneron Science Talent Search application cycle. Tonight, we are so excited to be joined by some very special guests, finalists from the class of 2023, who are going to share a little bit about their experience and also some advice, especially relevant to our applicants who are interested in applying this year.
That's right. Thank you, Elaine. And we'll introduce our special guests momentarily, but wanted to run through just a few nuts and bolts with you first, some final advice from myself and Elaine, and get you excited about what's to come, right? We're incredibly proud of any student in the country who opens an application. It takes a lot of guts to put yourself out there. We know that it means you probably have an incredible research project. The average STS entrant is a phenomenal student. And so we know that's why this is a competitive program, right? So know that our judges have a really hard decision ahead because you are the one who is applying. So just a couple of final tips and resources we wanted to recommend. If you're here tonight watching this webinar, because it's our last one, it's our most popular one, because you get to meet a lot of amazing students who've been in your shoes very successfully. But we've held 3 other sessions this year, and they're listed here. They're all available on our YouTube page and linked all over the application website. You can give us a follow on YouTube or feel free to just stream it. But not only these 3 sessions, if you go to our website, there are probably a dozen or more sessions you can watch from the last 2 years, all full of very relevant advice for students just like you, and also for educators who are supporting you in this process. So check it out. We had some early bird tips, which there's a tip in there I'll share again. Request your recommendations if you have not already done so. I hope you have. What is a future leader in STEM? You'll get a sense of that, I know, again tonight with our finalists, but that's another great session that goes in depth on that topic because after all, that's what we're looking for with this competition. Not necessarily the best research, although it'll be great to see what you've done, but we're looking for those future leaders in STEM, and we do that through a holistic review process. So you'll learn about that in that session. And then last but not least, show me your application. We collected advice and had some special guests, including our head judge of the Science Talent Search, several evaluators, rules review team, and finalists as well, giving straight up application advice. So highly recommend that session as well.
Some other tips that we would like to share here, definitely keep in mind our deadlines. The first of those being the application deadline itself. That is next week, less than a week from now, oh my goodness, on November 8th, 2023 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. This deadline is rock solid. All of your application and recommender materials are due at this time with no exceptions. So definitely, as Allie said, make sure to request those recommendations now if you have not already. Remind your recommenders, definitely a great idea to talk to them in person if you can. Make sure they're on top of that. And definitely you as well. Make sure that you are on your way to submitting that application well before that deadline. And then our second deadline, our technical support deadline, is 24 hours prior on November 7th. This one is when we really actually recommend you submit, because if you encounter any technical issues or any big questions, we guarantee a resolution to that problem by the application deadline the next day. So definitely always a great idea to submit as early as you can, just in case there are issues in advance that would prevent you from submitting on the day of the deadline. As always, though, if you do have questions in advance, Allie, myself, many of our other colleagues are pretty constantly at this point in the inbox, our STS at societyforscience.org account. This is where you can go with any technical questions, any questions about the application or our rules. Our team is happy to help and assist with those. You just need to let us know there.
That's right. Another great place to look for advice, our application site has a very robust FAQ page. If you Control F and type in what you're looking for, good chance you'll find the answer there. We also have an out of office reply on this email account that answers some of our, I think, our top 10 most frequently asked questions. So you might find your answer there. But we know a lot of students and especially recommenders are encountering kind of some account issues, and we're always happy to help with that. So please do email us well ahead of that November 7th deadline. All right. With that being said, we wanted to give you a special treat tonight and share our highlights video in case you have not seen it from last year's competition, just to get a sense of what the Science Talent Search is all about, putting yourselves in the shoes of these students who lived through the experience last year and imagining this could be you.
If you consider a Venn diagram, this was the STS finalists. This was me. I didn't think they'd ever overlap. But here we are.
So the Regeneron Science Talent Search tries to identify the teens across our country who are the best positioned to make impacts in scientific fields.
I would describe STS as an event that all young high school researchers dream of going to.
Honestly, I didn't process it until like a week later, until like people kept congratulating me and like asking me like what my project was about.
Even though it's a competition with $250,000 at stake, it's very collaborative, very supportive actually.
Everyone is like in it together. We're all working towards the same goal, just learning and doing our best.
Simultaneously has felt like everything's gone by in a blip, but it also feels like I've known these people for a long time already.
If I were to summarize STS in one word, I'd say it's fun.
Inspiring to get exposed to all these like different projects and people and ideas.
Everyone's really into their fields and they can talk about it with such enthusiasm. It's kind of infectious.
The meals, I feel like it's not really like a break because everyone's always talking about stuff. I feel like I'm learning everything every second that I'm out there.
I think my favorite part is just hanging out with the finalists in the lounge. It's just really fun realizing that we have so much in common despite our interests being so different.
One of my favorite activities during icebreakers was each of us has a tag of some scientific terminology on your back, and you have to ask a question about your name tag.
This morning at the Capitol building, all of us freezing, shivering, wrapping each other in blankets. To have such a supportive group to, you know, chill with is really nice.
And I think there is something to be said about being in our nation's capital. It's just a very special experience to be in Washington, D.C., which is where a lot of important stuff happens.
The schedule is really packed. I really want to be like in all these places at once, in the lounge, in the judging room, going to like different events. I just want to be everywhere so I can experience kind of everything that STS has to offer.
Even the judging's fun. The judges ask you these questions which are not like traditional science questions.
The judging process is really unpredictable, but at the same time it's really engaging. And it wasn't just the, oh, you got a correct answer or not.
We got to have dinner with some of our judges, and that was really rewarding because we got to ask them questions about their work.
We all got to talk to some of the alumni, so it was cool to see what someone who was in our shoes went on to do.
We are in some ways the next generation of scientists, and I think it's so amazing that they're looking to us, people like us who are really young, honestly 17, 18, and giving us this platform.
Especially with the public exhibition day coming up where people can go onto the website or the live streams and be able to see our projects.
Thank you for the question. So in my project, I studied internal...
The finalists this year of the Regeneron Science Talent Search, their research is really hitting all aspects of societal impact. I can't wait to see what these 40 young people are going to do.
I feel really honored to be able to be viewed as a scientist. I think that a lot of times like social science is pushed aside.
There's a finalist here that's using computer coding to early detect signs of suicide. And it's things like that where you're using your gift of knowledge to bring a meaningful change into the world.
A lot of times people feel like they can't do anything about it, but projects like mine or other environmental science projects gives us more hope that the younger generation can make a difference to combat this issue.
The Regeneron Science Talent Search is all about, taking our biggest social issues and tackling them with science.
I definitely think this project will make the world a much better place. Internet privacy is important to me.
I saw that these people were buying so many clothes without really knowing the dark side behind fast fashion is what really inspired me to delve deeper into that social and environmental lens.
There are a lot of problems in our world that need to be addressed in a variety of different ways, and they require all types of perspectives and backgrounds.
It's really cool because
something like that, like starting a research project in high school, can lead to that person continuing that research and actually coming up with feasible solutions to solve like real world issues.
I certainly didn't know that you could do research in high school. I'm the only kid in my entire school who's ever really done math further than just going to class.
I think that a lot of students believe that doing research in STEM requires a PhD or a lot of experience, and for me all it took was a cold email.
I reached out to 30, I believe, scientists and engineers. Just how many people were super willing to write back, yeah, sure, I'll answer your questions, even though you're some high school student who I've never met.
I actually conducted most of my research at home in my little like homemade lab, which is basically just my room.
I've only been a researcher for around 8 months. I think that says a lot about how research isn't necessarily about who's been doing it the longest.
No one in my family is really involved in STEM, and so being accepted into this community, it really showed me that anyone can do this, and I got this.
The problems that we face now are truly existential. The answers are not in front of us right now. These have to come from great new ideas, from great young minds. That's what these kids bring. They bring a new perspective, new ideas, and new hope to helping us all with all of our existential threats.
I'm really excited to kind of see 20 years from now what this group is doing, whether we have people who have cured cancer or have figured out how to, treat personalized mental health treatment.
If you want to start like a biotech company, which I hope to do in the future as well, they may be your future colleagues and, lifelong friends.
I'm really excited for my finalists and to see I knew them when they were, when we were all seniors in high school and when we were doing our research projects.
It starts with us and it'll continue after us, and I think that hope is what's keeping everything alive.
Welcome to all of you here at the National Building Museum and those, of course, who are joining us online. We're here tonight to celebrate the finalists of the 2023 Regeneron Science Talent Search.
The third place winner and the recipient of a $150,000 award, Ellen Shu. The second place winner and the recipient of a $175,000 award, Emily Ocasio. The first place winner and the recipient of a $250,000 award, from Saline, Michigan, Neil Mogdal.
People my age really do have the skills to solve these challenges. We have to believe that we are able to do it, because that is always the first step toward actually making a difference. And I think working together and trying to problem solve critically can really help even at a young age for other teenage scientists.
Great. As you can see, Regeneron STS finalists are amazing, and so are you. We're glad you're applying this year, and now we have a special treat. We're going to get to meet some of the students who were finalists last year. If you're watching this and you're applying, ask your questions too. We have a list we're going to run through with the finalists, but then we will get to your questions. So please leave them in the chat as you think of them. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so we can see our finalist friends up close and personal. Let's see. Bear with me. Great. So I think that's a little bit better for everyone. And I'm going to ask them all to introduce themselves, and then we'll get rolling with questions. So finalists, if you can tell the crowd when it's your turn, your name and what state you went to high school in, and where you are now, that would be great. Maybe what you are studying in college if you know what you're majoring in yet. We can start with Jeffrey. Why don't you go first?
Sure. So, hey everyone, my name's Jeffrey. I'm originally from San Francisco, California. I'm currently a freshman at Johns Hopkins University, and I actually made a little bit of a pivot. I originally was planning to do bio, but now I'm switching to econ, and I'm trying to start my own private investment fund.
Very cool. Good for you, Jeffrey. That's awesome. I see we have a duo here, Michelle and Emily. Go for it next.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I'm originally from Michigan, and now I'm at Harvard, and I'm planning on studying computer science and econ.
Hi, my name is Emily Kim. I'm from New York, and I'm also a first year at Harvard, and I'm interested in studying maybe CS.
Thank you both. Evan, Ethan, and Sophie, go for it.
I'm Evan. I'm originally from Seattle, and now I'm a freshman at MIT studying physics and computer science.
I'm Sophie. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. Now I'm at Harvard and I'm planning on studying math.
And I'm Ethan, originally from Virginia. Now I'm a freshman at MIT, and I don't know what I'm doing, but probably studying math.
You have time to decide. That's awesome. Neil, how about you?
Hi everyone, I'm Neil Malkal. I went to high school in Saline, Michigan, and I'm now a freshman at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, really close. And I'm a statistics and biophysics major.
Awesome. And Lavanya.
Hi, I'm Lavanya. I went to high school in Florida, and currently I'm at Georgia Tech, and I'm studying computer science.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight from kind of all over the country. We love to see it. And we love to see finalists together. It's always neat when you meet up with people in graduate school or undergrad or in companies someday that you get to keep growing that STS network. Elaine, I'm going to let you go with ask the first question that we have on our docket, perhaps to Michelle, since we want to get some answers from her first.
Awesome. Well, I think first and foremost on a lot of our entrance mind right now is obviously anything associated with the application. So we're going to ask a couple questions here just about your own application experiences. So Michelle, I would love to hear about why did you decide to apply to STS and what did you really want out of that experience?
I think I initially decided to apply to STS because I've heard so many like fun stories about kind of the experience that finals week and just like the overall experience of being able to have this additional opportunity to like share your research and like share a specific project from like all your years of high school to the specific science talent search. And I think for me, what I was looking to get out of it was just to make new friends and kind of like connect with people who are also interested in research and in science.
I feel like the same way. My research teacher had spoken previously about how wonderful of an experience STS was, and I feel like that's just something that was very important for me to experience because it helped solidify what I wanted to do in life, and it solidified how much I love STEM and how I want to continue to pursue that in college. So I'm very happy that I decided to apply, and it was honestly like a really great week of my life. So.
Awesome. How about this next question for our MIT crowd? What was your application experience like, and what do you remember from that time period last year?
I can go. Yeah, I remember doing this very last minute. It was definitely a mistake. So it was due on it was like Wednesday at like 8 or 9 p.m. or something. And like I was doing it like 2 hours before, and I had to edit my paper. And I realized I had a typo after I submitted it. But like it was like pretty interesting though. Like especially after doing college apps, like a lot of the stuff was transferable. So I think if you get started earlier, like now is definitely earlier if you have a week left, right? I think it's very manageable. It'll be nice to kind of sort through like what you did in your research, which you'll have to do, but it's nice to look back and like kind of solidify what you actually know about your research and how to present it. So I think it was a worthwhile application for sure, even if it was a bit stress inducing.
Yeah, I think I also remember starting around now, like right after, I think early deadlines was like yesterday. And after I started on them and copy pasted a lot of like my college essays and then reformat it to work for the questions. I also distinctly remember skipping a biking trip to finish my application because it was like a couple of days before, and then it ended up being worth it. So yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna apply until like few days before the deadline. It was kind of like the same as Ethan Evan. I had just finished my early application, so it was mostly just copying, pasting, or like reformatting some of my essay responses. And I already like finished my paper like over the summer. So like the actual research portion was like already done. It was mostly just like filling out the essay.
Awesome. So you heard it here first, folks. If you haven't gotten started yet, there is still time, we promise. Oh, and also I do want to point out too, exactly what they said is true, that a bunch of the information on the Common App is very transferable to your application. A lot of our other essays and just the kind of things you'll be thinking about for your college applications very much transfer over to our application as well. So we try to make it easier. We know college seniors are super busy. And sort of on that note, I think Lavanya, I'm going to pose this one to you. Yeah, it's just a really busy time for high school seniors in general. Do you have any tips for entrants who are kind of trying to manage the workload of all of that?
Yeah, so like how everyone else did, I also kind of started my application maybe like a week before it was due. So I would definitely say kind of like plan it out and like look at all the questions and kind of like plan out your ideas in like smaller chunks so that like you have like more time to think about everything like over a certain period of time. And like I feel like eventually it'll just kind of like come to like a nice like little essay that you will like. And I feel like probably because a lot of you may have already like written like a decent amount of essays for like college and stuff, um like you kind of would have understood kind of how to like format it eventually. So definitely plan it out and like do it step by step, because I know it does look super overwhelming like when you initially see it, but I like promise after like 5 days you'll be like, oh okay. So I like it, like the more familiar you get with the questions and like the more you see it, like the easier it will look and like the less intimidating it will be after like 3 days.
Very good. Maybe I'll see if there's a volunteer to answer this question, because I want to ask a little bit about managing mental health during this time of year. I think, you all have alluded, and we know that it's true, and I'm sure our entrants are feeling a lot of pressure this time of year, right? Both because college apps are happening, some deadlines have passed, but there are still some to go. We kind of fall in the middle of that. Does anyone have any tips or important perspective that they kept in mind that was helpful to them? Anything that you'd like to share on this note?
I can take this one.
Yeah,
Or Neil. Okay. So for me, what helped was that I like to take breaks and then just go on a walk once in a while to get some fresh air and then to just stop thinking about everything for a little bit. I think it's really important to prioritize getting some rest, and also like don't stay up till 1 a.m. working on this. You definitely sleep early. Getting a lot of sleep I feel like will be a lot more beneficial than staying up late.
Yeah, that is good advice. Neil, what advice would you give to rising 12th grade students who are considering applying to STS but aren't sure?
I would say that I was absolutely in their shoes. I was like, I don't know about this. I think there were times when considered like, why am I doing this? I thought this is like, I don't know. I think there's a whole range of emotions that I'm sure everyone is going through right now. And I mean, I hope it's comforting to say that I definitely went through them, and I'm sure almost everyone here went through them. But I can honestly say that having gone through it all, it was one of the most transformative experiences of my life. Not even just the experience of becoming a finalist and going to finals week. I think the experience I gained writing the essays for the application, doing everything, kind of helped me moving forward when I had anything else to apply. Anytime I applied for anything, and then later anytime I went for an interview or anything, it's like it could not possibly be worse than the Regeneron application. And I felt like just having been through it, having submitted the application, gave me a lot of confidence and a lot of experience to move forward. But if you do get the opportunity to go to finals week, which I think even just competing for the opportunity is more than worth it, because I think it's rewarding. I think it's either way it's rewarding, but I do think that having gone to finals week was one of the most life-changing experiences, and something that I always will look back on and say like that was a very important moment in my career. And I think applying for that experience is definitely worth it, and it's something that I think at the end of the day, if you're very passionate about your research and able to talk about it and everything, I think you should just have confidence in yourself, and I think you'll do great.
Awesome perspective. Thank you so much, Neil. Michelle and Emily, I think we'll come back to you for this next one. Do you have any tips on how best to approach the application?
I think one tip I have is to like genuinely reflect on kind of your STEM journey so far, because I think a lot of the questions are tailored toward like more personal things, like what you personally care about, like what specific fields of STEM, what problems in STEM do you feel passionate about. So I think like being genuine in that and thinking about like where your passions lie can really help you like kind of demonstrate what you like about STEM into your STS application.
On like a similar note, I think it's important that you figure out and like you know exactly what you're passionate about, and you find a way to like make that passion shine throughout like a lot of the essays, because apart from just like the questions about your abstract or the questions about like the methodology or anything really, like you just want to show to the people that you're like a genuine person who has like a genuine interest and someone who wants to use science to genuinely better the world.
Yeah, that is great advice, and I'm glad you both touched on the non-science essays as well. We're looking at the whole person. This is a holistic review process. We look at that; it matters to us. So make sure you are making sure that you shine through, just like they've suggested here. That's great advice. Maybe we'll shift gears here and talk a little bit about your research experience. And I know our entrants today have probably already completed their research. I mean, we're a week out, so I think it's probably safe to assume that. But perhaps if you're a younger student or you're watching this next summer, this might be helpful, and maybe it just provides reassurance that like the type of research that you did is good enough, right? Because I think we sometimes get imposter syndrome, or you compare yourself to what you see on the internet. But we want to reassure you today that winners in this competition do their research in all different places. So did any of you all are finalists here today? Did any of you do your research at home? Yeah, see, about half the hands are up in this crowd. So does anyone want to talk specifically about that? I guess Evan and Ethan, maybe you guys can touch on that since you both raised it. Sophie, did you raise your hand back there too? Okay, yeah. How about the MIT crowd? Tell us about your research at home experience and what that was like for you.
For me, I had a computational project, so it was kind of just coding, and like going through data and trying new models and stuff. And so it wasn't anything too special. Just like when I had time, when I had time at home after school, I would just work on my project and try to improve it. And then occasionally I'll get on like a Zoom call with my mentor and then talk about what I've done so far. And yeah, that was pretty much it.
I did like a math project. So it was like I did it through like a research program, I guess, that was like completely virtual to begin with. So I had a mentor and I would like meet with him once a week over Zoom. But there wasn't like any like lab work or anything involved. So I mostly just thought about my project or like read like background material on my own at home and then like talked with my mentor about it.
Yeah, I participated in the same program actually. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely do a lot of things from home for sure, especially math. There's not really a way to do it in a lab, right? For this, but like STS, they definitely do care about math projects. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all. I think I will pose this next one to Jeffrey. For younger students who are looking to do research next year, so maybe not applying this year, but in future years, do you have any advice for them on how to get started?
Sure. So I mean, right now, anything you can do to learn more about science, learn more about STEM will help. You can read a book, you can go read Nature magazine, or anything. You can just try to utilize the available resources out there, videos, articles, and whatnot, and just engage yourself into the subjects that you may be interested in.
Awesome. Is there anyone else who also might have some advice or wants to talk a little bit more about how you got involved in your own research journey?
I mean, I
Sorry. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Are you sure? Okay. So, I wanted to talk about my research actually. So my research was like very like hardware based and it was like very hands-on. Yeah, like I did have like coding components, but like I did all of my research like in my garage or like in my room. So like if you didn't go to like a fancy lab, you're completely okay. It like really it's like how much did you learn and how much did you like your project? And that's basically what the application is trying to see. So if you just like show how passionate you are and like show how much you learned, like you will be completely fine. And it really doesn't matter like where you did your research.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I want to ask a little bit about how much time you spent on your project, because we get a lot of questions about that on the entrance side. You know, they think sometimes that to be successful, you have to have worked a really, really long time, like years and years and years on your STS project. But that's not always the case, you know, and that's not a requirement for us either. Maybe we can just go down the line and shout out about how long you spent doing your research.
Okay, I can start. My research was actually kind of long. I spent, let's see, I think I spent a little over 2 years actually working on the research, and my research actually ended a while before I applied to STS. It's kind of funny, but I just did my research for no particular purpose, and then later kind of realized I could apply to STS. But yeah, so my project was kind of on the long side, but I definitely people will talk about much shorter projects.
So I started working or doing an internship in a lab during June of 2022, and then that internship wrapped up about halfway through August. So in total is about 8 weeks. And then I spent about a month really focusing on the research paper. Then after I had that down, then I started working on the application. So in total, it was maybe 3 months related to the actual research and then a month or so on the actual STS application.
So for me, I think I spent about like 2 or 3 months like developing like my device, and then I spent like another 2-ish months testing slash like making improvements on my device. So like overall maybe like 5 months for like research, and then yeah, like around a month to write the paper.
For me, I started around like September of my junior year and finished most of it by March of my junior year, and then made some adjustments in the summer before STS, and also wrote my paper. So I guess like 6 months for the project itself, and then no, it's a couple like maybe 1 month of work after, like sporadically throughout the summer.
I started my project in
January.
January of my sophomore year, and then I finished it. I finished like the math in June of my sophomore year, and then I spent the summer writing the paper. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's similar. Like I started well, mine was in my junior year, but I started January of my junior year, I think most of the results were probably in the first half of that year. And then after that was like polishing everything for the rest until the next, or like November when it's due.
Very cool. The variety is always so interesting. I think we see that all the time. So there really is no one experience. I think we're going to change gears again, and we're actually now going to talk about your finals week experiences. So as we've said before, applying is itself a wonderful gift, but all of you also had the experience of getting to go to Washington, D.C., participate in final judging, meet industry leaders, meet each other. So we just want to hear a little bit more about that. But first, let's start at the very beginning. What was your reaction when you were named a finalist, and what did it mean to you? I think I'm going to put that one to Lavanya.
Okay, so for me, I got a call. I thought it was a scam, so didn't pick it up. And then like I was like texting like one of my other friends, and she was like, "Oh wait, it might be them." It's like okay, so then I called them back like I think 3 hours later. Then they told me, and like I was actually kind of surprised, and I don't think it like set in until like a week like later. And then like even after that, like it still like didn't set in, and like sometimes like even now I'm like, whoa, I was like a Regeneron STS finalist. Like it's still like so crazy to like think about it. But yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a good feeling, right? And I think I imagine the others would echo. Does anyone else want to share their story? We can take one more of these if anyone else had a cool reaction or was similarly pretty surprised. Was anyone not surprised? No one ever says they weren't surprised, right? Very good. Jeffrey, how about you? What was your reaction when you were named a finalist?
So I was actually playing chess that day, so I missed the initial phone call. And then after I finished up the game, then I called the phone number back because they said Washington, D.C. And I thought, could it be STS? Then it was. I was really happy. Still in shock. Well, not right now, but then like a couple days after, I was still in shock. It was just great.
Really a life-changing phone call, right? Well, a lot of people are curious about what happens during finals week and how do we pick the top 10 winners from the 40 finalists. So we'll talk about judging, but first let's talk about the fun stuff because STS is not just about judging, especially when you're one of the top 40 finalists. The whole point of bringing everybody together is that you get to meet each other, right? And what we hope to do is create this amazing cohort of future leaders in STEM who get to know each other. And then those relationships continue to form and deepen over many years to come. So we have field trips, we have many different activities. What was your favorite field trip, Sophie? Or activity? Or Evan or Ethan? Tell us what
field trip, but it was like just like during like downtime between judging or like in the evening after like we had an event for dinner or something, just like hang out with the other finalists in the lounge because it was like relaxing and we would talk about stuff that wasn't like judging focused. So it's like a way to like just de-stress. So yeah. So it's not like something specific, but just the general vibe of finals week was very nice.
Very good. Any other favorite parts, events, or field trips that were not related to judging?
I think Ron Vale coming to speak was incredible. Like his research was, and him as a researcher is someone I always looked up to. So I thought getting to meet him and getting to listen to him talk about research was incredible. And then going to Genelia, of course, which is the research campus of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, and we got to go there. And that was just amazing to see the kind of research they're doing and the different way they approach research than most academic institutions. And it just was very interesting to me.
I think for me is going to I forgot what the Dwight E. Eisenhower building or whatever, the one where we saw the Secretary of the I don't know, the Office of Science and Technology.
Yeah, Dr. Prabhakar, we went to the Office of Science and Technology Policy at the White House. So that was always very exciting to get to go with that. But yeah, please tell them about it. Go for it.
I think it was just exciting to go through like security and stuff. I don't know. I remember like we had like the sheet with all our social security numbers, and then the wind blew away, and then I was like, wow, this is like legit. Like our social security numbers are getting like blown around in Washington D.C. And like
Let's recover if we don't need to. Yeah, I'll get there.
Well, on that note, I think we do want to talk a little bit about your judging experience at STS. As Ali alluded to, a lot of folks aren't really quite sure how that works. And so Neil, are you able to talk about the two different types of judging and what your experience was like with those?
Yeah, so there are two types of judging, which I did not know this going in, but there are panel judging and there's project judging. So panel judging is where you kind of go. I think the distribution is probably the same. When we did it, it was 2 days of panel judging and 1 day of project judging. And so panel judging is when you go kind of sit down with some judges, just you and the judges, and they ask you questions related to their fields. And kind of the point of that is not necessarily that you know the answer to everything, because it's frankly impossible to know the answer to everything. They want to see how you think, how you approach the questions, and how, even if you don't know the answer, how you go about thinking about it. Because I think at least my impression from it is that what they really care about is the way you think and the way you approach science, the way you approach problem solving. And I think that was probably, in my opinion, the more there's project judging as well, where you have it's more of a standard kind of poster thing where you have a poster describing your project, and then different judges will come. You have some scheduled appointments with the judges, and they'll come, and maybe some judges will drop by. And you kind of have to be ready to adapt your presentation to different judges. Like my project was in biophysics. So when I had a bioinformatic judge, I talked a lot about maybe the computational aspects, whereas when you have a biochemistry judge, you talk more about the biochemistry and biophysics, like the basic science aspects of it. And so I think the challenge there is kind of adapting your presentation. In my opinion, which I don't know if everyone shares this opinion, but my personal impression was that the panel judging felt more difficult because there were times, actually my first panel judging event went, in my opinion, at least I thought then, I don't know, but I thought it went very poorly. And I remember calling my mom after that and saying, I think I've blown this entire thing. I think I literally said the words, I think there's no chance of ever making the top 10. And I think that's probably one of the best things that happened to me, because after that, my mom told me that, okay, even if you never win, you're here in DC, just do your best and have fun in the rest of them. And I think having the first one not go how I expected kind of let me loosen up for the other ones and made the other ones go a lot better. And so I think panel judging, it's very easy to feel like you failed. I felt like that. I think a lot of people will say they felt like that. But it's truly a thing where you cannot judge how you did. You cannot judge how you did from being there. Project judging, I felt more in my comfort zone talking about my own research, which I felt like I knew pretty intimately. And I didn't feel like they asked difficult questions and they asked questions that made you think, but it was always questions targeted towards something you spent a lot of time studying and that you are kind of, you are someone very knowledgeable in. So for me, I thought that project judging was more, the one that I felt more confident in. But I think that the big takeaway from that is that I think almost everyone will walk out of judging thinking that they didn't do as well as they would have liked, because I think most people go in thinking, okay, I'm going to know the answers to these questions. They're going to ask me questions about things I learned somewhere, things I read somewhere, and that's not how it works. They ask you off the wall questions about things you've never heard of, and you have to kind of adapt and use the knowledge you do have. And I think it's just important to note that everybody applying does have the knowledge to do it. Everyone does have the training to answer these questions. It's not like you have to take some crazy classes and things to know how to do these questions. In fact, the thing that I had studied the most, math, was where I felt Like the questions were where I felt like I did better in some of the questions that I'd studied less. And I am not saying like you don't study for these, like just things that you learn in school. But I think at the end of the day, the judging is different from anything I've ever experienced, and I think anything a lot of people have ever experienced. But I think coming out of it and being on the other side, it was definitely something that gives me a lot of confidence going forward. Like if I can get through that, I can get through anything.
Yeah, that's really good perspective, Neil. And I appreciate the thoroughness of your answer because it's a very thorough judging process, right? And so I hope that also reassures our entrants about how seriously our team takes this work. And it goes back to how sophisticated and amazing the work is that you're submitting to us. And it's a very difficult decision. So a lot goes into it, especially carrying through the finals week. We are getting close to the end here, so I want to ask Jeffrey, what was the best part of finals week for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it was just having conversations with all the other finalists. I mean, I got to meet some of the smartest people in the country, the smartest seniors in the country. I was just talking to them. It doesn't have to be related to the project. It was just silly little convos about like how they're doing, what their life was like growing up, etc. So conversations, talking to people, I think that was the most valuable thing that I got from the competition.
Well, you are definitely not alone in that. We hear that echoed a lot, but always very glad to be able to help create that experience for you all, and always glad to hear that you have made the most of it. It's really up to you to enjoy that opportunity to the fullest, and you all do every time. So thank you so much, Jeffrey, for that. Lavanya, this one is for you. What would you say is the best thing you gained from the experience of finals week?
It would definitely be like being like more confident about like what I did. Like before I was like, oh yeah, it's just research, I'm just gonna apply. But then like after this, like I was much more confident in like being able to like present my research. And then on top of that, just like being able to like talk to like other people about my research at like a much higher level than like what I was used to. And I feel like that also really elevated my understanding of my own research, even though I was the one that did it. But yeah, overall, like very eye-opening experience.
Awesome. And then our MIT friends, last question from us is for you guys. How has being named a finalist impacted your life?
I guess for me, one of the big things is like I had only done math basically for up until like senior year, basically, like up until STS essentially. And so I did not think really much about like doing science as a career or something. But they're like just getting to see all the cool projects for the first time. Like as someone who hasn't done like science fair or anything of the sort, this was very inspiring, I think. And kind of just regaining that kind of curiosity that sometimes I think is easy to lose when you're, especially like during the college app process. Like it can be pretty depressing. But like yeah, just like seeing all these cool problems, all these people doing all these cool things. Yeah, that was inspiring for sure.
I feel like the title of finalist has like is probably been helpful for maybe like as a resume item, but besides that, like I think when I was at finals week, I got to talk to a lot of different people and gain like different perspectives. And like for example, I met Ryan, and then he got me to subscribe to the Nature briefing, and then just things like little things like that, and learn what other people do, and think about other possible careers, like Ethan said.
I think for me, like I was always really big math kid growing up. And where I went to high school, like where I grew up, like there weren't that many like other, I guess, like math enthusiasts. So like doing, I guess, math research on my own is a little bit isolating, but like coming to STS week and meeting other like really like-minded people, especially like math people, like other math, like student math researchers was really inspiring. And it's definitely like pushed me to, I guess, like be more excited or like feel like there's more hope in like doing math as a career rather than just like as something I really enjoy doing, but not necessarily for like a long time after college. I guess as Ethan said, like just getting exposed to so many more things in science or even in the humanities from all the other finalists that aren't just like your field was really inspiring.
Yeah, well, thank you all so much for sharing. I know it's been a year since you applied, so I had to dust off some memories to put yourselves back in the entrance shoes, but I know it's very meaningful for them to hear from you, so thank you for taking the time tonight. Elaine, I understand we have a couple of questions in the chat for our group here. Have at it. Take it away.
Awesome. Yes, we do have a couple. The first one actually posed to Jeffrey specifically. A watcher wants you to expand on how you added your own creative spin and passions to being assigned a research project. This is pretty common among our entrants who are curious. We ask a lot about student contribution, for instance. And so I think a lot of folks who end up getting a project from a research mentor are just very curious to hear about how you were able to be creative and independent with a project that was assigned to you.
Sure. So my project, or just like a quick summary, it was about studying a particular type of protein and then making little edits on the amino acids and then see how that would affect the protein. So I actually got to pick which amino acids that I wanted to change. So I think my mentor was really nice, and all of the sites that I chose, the specific amino acids, made sense given the information we had. So then she just let me do it, and then the results turned out great. So I think I was lucky because my mentor let me do some like individual things. But even besides that, like working the machines, my mentor, she would go over all the steps, how to use the machine, and then even let me test it out for some of the samples as well.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And actually a pretty good segue into our next question. You had a mentor, and the rest of you will have to refresh me on if all of you had mentors, but maybe speaking about your experience talking to other finalists, even if you didn't. Do entrants that don't have a mentor, are they disadvantaged in the process? Do you think that people without a mentor can really succeed in STS? And why or why not? And I'll put that to anyone who wants to answer.
I can tell you what the numbers say. Oh,
sorry, you can go ahead.
You don't have to have a mentor to do well. I just want to preface with that. But Lavanya, you go ahead. We want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, so like personally, for me, like I did have a mentor, but it was like more on like, you know, like what my like the goal, like the overall goal, like where it was. So like my project was on like landfill. So my mentors were like the landfill engineers. But in terms of like actually having to like develop my device and like learn how to like do the circuitry, learn how to solder, like I didn't have any mentors for that. I learned it by myself, like YouTube. Like yes, like I did have to like reach out to like some people, but it wasn't like someone that I was like continuously talking to or like going through the process with them. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And I will also doubly reiterate what both Lavanya and Ali have said, that it is super common for people to apply who do not have mentors, who maybe do their projects entirely on their own, and for those people to do very well. So that is a very common question. People do get worried, but whether you have a mentor or you do not, it's really about your experience, what you share with us. If you've watched our webinars, you will have heard us say this many times, so I cannot let this webinar go by without saying it, but context is key. Definitely feel free to give us details about your experience. We want to know who you are as a scientist, as a leader, as a human being. So as long as you're sharing that, you'll do pretty okay.
Yeah, and I'll just reiterate too that mentors, there are many levels of mentorship, right? So just like Lavanya was discussing, like she had a mentor to help with certain components, but not every component. That's very common. If that's you, great. If you totally did the whole thing by yourself in your basement, that's also great. If you got into a cool research program, so you had a mentored experience, what a great learning opportunity for you. These are all okay and all very common and all do very well.
All right. Well, I think we are out of questions in our chat, but I will put it to you all if you have any last minute advice or tips that you would like to share that we did not already get to.
I mean, I'll just say this. I think we're a week out from the application, and I think people are mostly wrapping up what they're doing. And I just want to reiterate what has been said many times as the fact that you've made it this far, the fact that you've opened the application, and the fact that you will submit the application is highly impressive. Everyone who is doing it should be very proud of themselves. And at this point, moving forward, once the application deadline passes, that is something you've done. And I think regardless of the outcome, you should be very proud of yourselves for being part of this and being part of the STS community. And I think that you should definitely be. I would also just say that it's a very exciting experience and something I feel very lucky to have gone through. But I think there are equally successful people that did not win STS or that did not become an STS finalist. And I think that regardless of the outcome of the competition and regardless of what happens, I think everyone who's doing it is a fabulous scientist. And definitely it can be a confidence boost, but don't let anything bring your confidence down. I think everyone who's doing it is amazing, and I'm very proud of everyone who's submitting. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Awesome. Well, very well said, Neil. Thank you. And thank you everyone for sharing such wonderful advice with our entrants tonight. We really appreciate it. And if you're an entrant and we didn't get to your question, please email us at sts@societyforscience.org. I know there were some more technical or individual questions tonight. We're happy to get to them by email. And if anything comes up between now and next week, we're here for you, Elaine and I and our team as well. So good luck. Believe in yourself. You can do it. We're all here rooting for you and can't wait to see what you do. See you next time. Bye-bye.
And we're done.
Yeah.